So, Unity did a big dum-dum and the whole game dev industry is now in an uproar about it. If you somehow haven't heard about it yet, basically a few days ago, Unity announced that starting January 1st, 2024, they will now start invoicing games for each install the game gets, if the game has met certain revenue and install thresholds. Now, if you have seen my videos before, you might be aware that I am a Unity developer. The previous two games I have released have both been made with Unity, and my third game that I'm currently working on is also being made with Unity. So, what do I, as a Unity dev, think about all this? Well, in my personal opinion and thinking from several different viewpoints, overall I would say that it's a really dumb move. And right off the bat I have to add that numbers wise this isn't even bad for me. It's very likely that me and solo devs like me wouldn't have to pay anything with these changes. I mean, the lowest revenue dollar threshold is $2,000 in the last 12 months. Now, none of my games have unfortunately made that much, and let's say one of my future games is really successful, then I could just upgrade to Unity Pro, which is around $2,000 per year currently, and then the revenue threshold would be $1 million. So that would be a lot of revenue as a solo dev, and my expenses are also really small, so a lot of that revenue would actually be profit for me. So yeah, I don't imagine I will get to this threshold anytime soon. So as someone who is affected but also kind of not affected, why do I think these changes are so dumb? Well, first of all, invoicing games based on the installs is really vague. I mean, do installs on different devices count? Probably, right? Okay, so what about if you just uninstall the game, reinstall on the same device? Does that count? Maybe. What about pirated copies? And then what if one of your players gets really angry for some reason and happens to be a script kiddie and then comes up with this like reinstall script with virtual machines and some device spoofing maybe if needed? Then yeah, do those installs count? This was one of the most obvious points of contention that the game devs raised, and I have to say that I think Unity has done a really poor job at communicating all the details. At first it was said that every reinstall counts, but since then Unity has kind of backtracked a bit and said that only the initial install counts, and then when asked how they actually plan to calculate these installs, I don't think Unity has done a really good job at all clarifying that. Basically they're saying that they have a data model that can accurately determine the amount of installs, and since the data model is proprietary, they don't want to give any more details on that. So yeah, hey, just trust us, bro. And I mean, to give Unity some benefit of doubt here, I do think they have a data model for this, and I would even go so far to say that it might even be pretty accurate, but I'm still very much certain that the install counts their data model comes up with, they can't be fully accurate. And that is a big issue because they will actually be invoicing the developers based on those numbers. I imagine that Unity's counter to this is that, okay, hey, well, if you think the numbers are wrong, then just contact us and we'll smooth it out. Which, I mean, probably sounds very nice to them since they hold all the power in that situation. If the developer doesn't have the presence of mind to double check all the numbers, then yeah, hey, too bad if the numbers are wrong. Unity gets the money, the developer loses the money. And I mean, even if the developer does notice the problem with the numbers, it's still a big inconvenience to go through the channels like, hey, please sir, these numbers are wrong, look at them. Like, I had lots of pirated copies here and blah blah blah. Yeah, I mean, it's gonna be a real hassle on Unity sides also, I would imagine, at least if there are enough of these complaints about the numbers. And then in the end they can just say like, okay, hey, yeah, we don't notice anything weird with these, just pay up. Overall, it just brings too much uncertainty to game development. And since the install fee is a flat fee, that will disproportionately affect free and low-priced games. Again, that doesn't personally influence me, but still I don't like the idea of having to think about Unity's install fees on when you're deciding what kind of a game to make and what kind of a price point you want to target. So yeah, overall install fees I think are really bad for developers because they are so vague. I don't think they should be used for invoicing. But the install fees I don't think are even the worst part about this change. Unity announced this change just around 3 months before it would go into effect. And worst of all, yeah, I cannot emphasize this enough, the worst thing they did was to say that this will retroactively affect all games. So, according to them, if you made a game 10 years ago, it doesn't really matter what kind of a contract you agreed to at that time. If your game is still up and it goes above the thresholds, hey, too bad, you now have to pay us. And that I think is the biggest issue and why this has caused such an uproar in the game dev sphere. In essence, this means that in order to trust Unity, you would have to be able to predict the future. Why would someone now want to make a game with Unity when in 10, 15, 20 years Unity can come up with a new retroactive contract that says, okay, you now have to pay us $1 billion for each minute the players have spent in the game or something crazy like that. Now obviously this is exaggerated, but the logic is still the same. They are making changes that would have had a big effect on decisions made in the past. And I have to say that Unity's attempts at calming things down haven't really been very effective. Whether we're talking about us having to appreciate their proprietary data model or by trying to minimize the whole thing about indie devs just being confused about the whole situation, or regarding the trusting, my favorite is how they just casually mention that they will adjust the prices annually. So yeah, I mean, even if you are okay with the current numbers, they will change annually, so who knows what they will be 3 years, 5 years, whatever years from now. They are basically asking us to put all the trust in them when by their actions they have not displayed any characteristics of being a trustworthy party. Okay, so at this point you might also be curious what are my plans as a Unity developer. Well, I'm about a year in developing Mortal Glory 2 and maybe something like half a year or something from the release, so yeah, I will finish the game in Unity and after that I will have to carefully consider my options. I haven't made any plans and honestly it's a big decision. I'm doing game dev full time. This is my only income source, so I cannot really make decisions like that lightly. Like, do I discard all the experience I have in Unity so far and spend like X months trying to learn a new engine? Yeah, it's a tough decision. And honestly, I am still rooting for Unity to somehow make a comeback from this. I think it will require them pulling back all these changes and somehow making it really ironclad that they cannot do such changes in future retroactively. Personally, I would even be okay if they pivoted to a revenue share model like what Unreal has. I think they will have to make some concessions and somehow pivot this because of how big it has blown up, but yeah, at this point it's really hard to say what the final outcome will be. I'm sure there will be lots of updates in the coming days, and I mean, my biggest worry is that Unity has already suffered a lot of damage due to this, and even if they make like a full U-turn with this change, some people still aren't coming back to the game engine. So I don't know if they will have this like sunk cost fallacy that, okay, we took the damage, like might as well push through. Yeah, I don't know, it will be interesting to see. There's lots of other stuff I could also talk about this, like who actually has to pay, because they're saying that the distributors have to pay, so would it be Steam that has to pay for my games? I don't know, that's unclear, they haven't said anything about it. Then there was the Unity Plus license being removed, so yeah, now you actually have to pay $2,000 per year to just remove the Unity splash screen, which is pretty steep. Then there was some shady business kind of going on with Unity removing their TOS tracker and then later on changing the license, so you can't actually use the license from a previous engine version. I haven't delved too deep into that, but overall seems very shady. Then there has also been a rumor going around that they would pivot so that all these costs would only take effect if your company has more than 50 employees. Now that could just be a pure rumor, I have no idea, but if it is true, I mean, yeah, kind of nice I guess, but that still doesn't address the main point of contention, I think, which is that how can you trust Unity going forward when they make these retroactive changes, and they have displayed that they do have the mentality to make these changes. But yeah, there's lots of stuff floating around and updates happening, but I cannot go in more detail about those because I don't want to end up with a hour-long video. So yeah, I think I'm gonna end it at this point. I hope this was interesting to all of you watching, and yeah, please let me know in the comments what do you think about all this. It's always interesting to hear new thoughts about all this going around. But yeah, hey, enough rambling. I thank you for watching and I will see you in the next one.